Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members. Welcome to the session on data management using Excel, the intermediate level. This is the second session in the series on becoming an expert using Excel. As I introduced last week as well, that this quarter at ACCA is themed as the power of digital. And a number of initiatives and a number of activities are taking place across the globe, which will equip you with the necessary digital skills that you can use at work on a regular basis. ACCA makes sure that its members stay relevant, and if there are any technological developments happening in the profession, directly related to the profession, or otherwise, in areas that affect the profession. So it makes sure that ACCA members are prepared and equipped to deal with those changes. So this entire initiative, where ACCA is holding, trainings in digital, where there's a conference taking place, where there's a research report by the name Machine Learning, which has recently been released on the 10th of April, with a module on big data being announced with the ethics and professional skills module. And I encourage all ACCA members to go back and undertake or complete the ethics and professional skills module once again. This has particularly been made free of cost for all ACCA members. Now, although affiliates and students particularly, they end up paying for it, but for members, this has been made free of cost. And now there's an additional component of big data being built into ethics and professional skills module. And this offers you an opportunity to complete 12 units of CPD as well. So take time out, undertake these trainings. Make sure that the opportunities that ACCA is providing you under the theme Power of Digital, you make good use of them. About today's session, Excel has always been a very, very important tool for members who are working on ERPs, members who are not working on ERPs, sort of a bridge between manual accounting and advanced accounting or ERP-based accounting. However, there are certain skills that will definitely increase your productivity at work, improve your understanding or capability, when you're dealing with complex situations. And one such session that we're talking about today is how to handle data. So I think this is a very important session. Let's keep it interactive. A few questions that I wanted to answer upfront. The session is being recorded. So if for any reason you missed certain part, you did not get a certain part of the session, you can always go back and refer to it. So the recording will be available. The handout or the sheet that we're going to work on, that is also going to be made available afterwards as well. Although at the moment it has been uploaded as a handout. So you can go to the webinar menu and look at handouts. It should say 1 of 5. So that one, you expand that menu and you will see the Excel file placed there. You can download this file, and as the trainer goes on performing different commands, you can take time out and do these yourself as well. That's the only way that will ensure that you're learning. Because otherwise, if you're just watching, it might seem very easy and convenient for you, but when you're doing it yourself, you'll probably not be able to get good grips on it. So with that, I will hand over to Khurram Khan, our trainer, the expert trainer in Excel. And I believe, the person who would have developed Excel, I think he knows probably how to operate Excel the best. And after that, it's Khurram Khan. isn't it? So, and there are times you must have been challenging the developer also, or this is something that he has not done for you. I agree. I'm just making up. So, no, actually, Microsoft has this group of professionals around the world, and any new software or any new development that it does, it consults all those techie guys, and so yeah, so. All right. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to Khurram. We will take a very short break, about 5-10 minutes maximum, at about 11:30. Yeah. And that will be a comfort break. You can go back, get a cup of tea for yourself. Other than that, we're going to be in session. Keep your questions flowing. However, I would encourage that let one topic be completed and then start rolling out questions, because otherwise a lot of questions will in any case be answered throughout the session. So with that, I'll hand over to Khurram. The last announcement is going to be about the certificates. A lot of people are concerned about certificates. When will we get them, etc. So about 2 to 3 days, working days. Tomorrow is a holiday in Pakistan, but probably in Bangladesh and Middle East it is not a holiday. So I think in the next 2 to 3 days we should be able to send out the certificates through email to all the participants. I think that's it. I'll hand over to Khurram and we'll run through the session now. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay, let's have another session on Excel. Okay, I hope that a majority of you have attended the last webinar, which were on the basics of the Excels. We had a fair orientation of what Excel is, what are the basic features that Excel offering, what are the terms and terminology that we will be using throughout these 4 sessions, and that will I hope that will be very, very helpful for you. Okay, just give me. Okay. Okay, let me take an overview of what we are going to do in this particular webinar. Uh, Okay, this is the intermediate level session. We will not be discussing this in the advanced level, but only at the intermediate level. No, not basic whatsoever. We want to refer to those recordings. Okay, yes. Yes, Harun is right. If you have any queries regarding the basics, you can always refer back to the session that we had last Saturday. We have discussed each and everything. Now, we will start with one of the concept which is known as the modes of references. There are 3 modes of references: relative reference and absolute reference. We will discuss those. What are these? What are the significance? What is the significance of these references? Then we will go to the logical function, and we will be focusing on these concepts and the functions: the if function, the nested if function, and or not, and if error function. And then we will move to the next part, and that is what we have the mathematical function. We will be discussing what is sum ifs. Then we will be round function, round down, and etc. And then we will be doing and discussing few of the concepts from a few of the functions from the statistical, and this is the countif, small, large, average, and average if function. Then we will move towards some of the other functions from the date functions, which will be weekday, date, day, date, year, date, month, network days, etc. Then we will move to certain features such as how to protect a cell or a range, and then there's a data validation, how we can use this feature in order to make sure that whatever we have entered the cell, it is follows certain rules. And the last one is the charts. We will be focusing what chart is, what are the various basic charts, and how we will use these features in order to construct an elegant chart. And then we have the last one is the a financial function part, and we will be focusing on PMT, IPMT, and PPMT functions. So this is the overview of what we will be discussing today. Let's go back to the first, that is the relative and absolute reference. Okay. Okay. Relative reference, or say reference, means that whenever we write a formula or a function and we are referring to certain value which is resided in certain cell. So referencing means that we are referring to the value residing in a particular cell. For example, if I want to use this 3% which is in F4, so as you all know that if I want to enter a formula, then I have to enter first a character is the equal to sign, and then the cell reference. So this is what I meant. I'm referring the value 3% which is resided in F4. So I'm referencing. So there are three modes of referencing, and I will be discussing only two. One is the relative reference and other is the absolute reference. By relative reference means when I entered a formula using certain references and I want to copy that formula elsewhere, or maybe copy this particular formula from top to down, from say O9 to say may O13. So what will happen is that from this particular reference, this cell reference will be changed from F4 to F5, from F5 to F6, and so on and so forth. This is required when we will make use of certain other values which are resided in some other cells, and they will be used in the copied cells. Now let's see what actually I meant. For example, let me first of all just select D4 and delete all the values right over here. Okay. So what actually I am trying to say, that equal to, let's write a formula, very simple formula, that these this value, that is 2000, which is a save value, that is being multiplied by, for example, a 3%. For example, multiplied by 3%. So this is the hard code value that I am entering into the function formula. So it means the value which is 2000 being multiplied by 3%. So that's what is meant. And I'm using C4 as a cell reference. So if I click enter, so 3% multiplied by 2000 is actually 60%. And if I copy this formula down, so it means that 3% will be multiplied by this value, we will get this one, multiplied by this value, we will get this one, and so on and so forth. And if you look at here, the value C4, when I copy this to here, it becomes C5, it becomes C6, C7, C8, so on and so forth. So this is the relative reference. So relative to the previous cell, relative to the previous cell. The base formula that I have entered in D4, from starting from D4, whatever reference that I have used, that is in this case is C4. When I copy this formula, because this is the relative reference, this C4 becomes C5, this C5 becomes C6, so on and so forth. So this is a relative reference. Now, let's assume that our requirement is that we want to see the impact of change in rate. For example, 3 to 4%, 4 to 5%, so on and so forth, and what will be the total bonus. So let me use this, the total, and this is the sum function that we already did in our last webinar. So 789. So this is the 3% multiplied by these values, and we will get 789. So I want to have a look that if I raise this 3% to 4%, what will be the change in this. So in order to do so, I will have to use this cell reference instead of 3%. And remember one thing, it is highly recommended that in a function or a formula, always use a cell reference. Do not use hardcore value unless and until it is necessary, right? So this is what we should do. Always use the cell references within the formula or in the function, right? Don't use the hardcore values as we did in the previous example. So what actually I did, so see, I want to multiply 2000 with 3%, which is resided in F4. Now if I press the enter, I have got the same value. But the problem is when I copied this formula, I've got the correct answer for this cell reference only, this calculation only, but the rest of the value becomes 0. And that is because I have used the relative reference. Relative reference, as I mentioned earlier, that when I copied the formula, the cell reference will be incremented accordingly. So C4 becomes C5, F4 becomes F5. So what actually we want? So this is F4 and this is F5. It should move to here. If I click this, now look at this, the F4 is being moving downward, and that is because we have used F4 as a cell reference. So what we want to do, or what is our requirement, is that when I copy this formula, this cell reference will stay fixed. It should not go down, right? So in order to accomplish this, what we need to do, we need to change the cell reference from relative to absolute. So F4, in order to convert a relative reference to an absolute reference, we need to use the dollar sign. So dollar sign, one for column, and one for row. So $F $4 is for absolute reference. So what it does, it will fix this reference, means then when I copy this formula, it does not change. It will stays fixed. It will does not increment from F4 to F5. It will stays F4 throughout this calculation. So if I press enter and if I copy this formula, and you will see what will happen. So this is 60%, 75%. I've got all the calculation back. Now this is F4, this is F4, this is F4, and just notice that we have used two cell reference. One is relative reference and other is absolute reference. The cell reference, which is relative, it changes, it's incremented, C4 to C5, C5 to C6, so on and so forth. And what about this? This is an absolute reference, and when I copy this down, it stays fixed, it does not change, so it remains there, and that what is our requirement is. So if I change this bonus rate from 3% to say 4%, and you see these values changes because calculation is made as per this value, and accordingly we have this total. So 102, 1052, and then we have 5, and that is actually the case. So this is the significance, and this is the importance of understanding this concept, relative reference and absolute reference. That is one of the major causes of your errors while you copy a formula from one location to another location, or to a particular range. If you don't understand this concept, you will be unable to calculate what you want to calculate, right? So we will be using this concept again and again throughout this webinar and the remaining webinars. This concept, the absolute reference and the relative reference, will stay intact. Whenever we have to copy, we have to write a formula, we need to look into which of the cell reference need to be relative and which need to be absolute, and we need to be very focused on that, because I have mentioned earlier that if we don't use the desired cell references, and if you copy from that formula or function from one to another, it might give you an error. So you need to use references as the need of the function or the need of the problem. So let's conclude this, and if you have any question on this particular concept, relative and absolute reference, then it's right now. I'm giving 2-3 minutes.
The question is, what is the third mode of reference in order to be
Okay, the third one is the mixed reference. We will be using this in maybe today, maybe in the next webinar, but it means that I want to copy a formula, but I want to say make sure that the rows stay fixed, columns stay fixed, or I want that when I copy, the row remains fixed. So this is the mixed reference. Okay, I'm giving you one very simple example. For example, I'm using this cell reference, which is F4. So this is the relative reference. Okay, I forgot to mention one thing. There is a keyboard shortcut as well, and this is the F4. That is the F4 function, F4 key. If you press F4 once, your relative reference will be changed to absolute reference. I have to use the F1 key. Yeah. Okay. So look at there. I have pressed the F4 key, the function key. The relative reference is changed to absolute reference, and now just notice one thing. When your reference is relative and you have pressed F4 key once, it changes to absolute reference. Now, if you press F4 again, absolute reference is changed to mixed reference. Now, look at this. We have $1 that is with the row reference and we don't have with the column reference. So it means when I copy this formula from say down or right side, whatever, then row will be fixed. Row reference does not change, but the column reference do. And if I press F4 once again. Now notice we don't have a dollar sign with the row, but we have the dollar sign with the column reference. Now it means that if we copy, the column reference does not change, but the row reference do. So it means so this is actually the mixed reference. We sometimes we do use this concept whenever required, but in majority of the cases, either we are using the relative reference or the absolute reference. It is only used when we have, say, when we are dealing with the cross tabular tables, and that we will discuss, I guess, in the 4th session of this series, right? Is there any question on this? Right. So F4 is the magic key in this concept. So F4 is the keyboard shortcut. Use once when you want to change from relative reference to absolute reference, and then or a mixed reference. Just play this for a while. F4, F4, F4. I'm keep on pressing F4 and see what is actually the impact, right? So I think the concept is clear now. Okay, now let's move to the next very simple but yet a very important function, the if function. And this function is very natural. It is built in our life. We are using this concept throughout our life, right? It simply says that if this is the case, then we can do that, and if it is not the case, then we can do that. So it is actually the selection or doing something based on certain criteria, or don't do that based on certain criteria. So if I write this in a plain English or plain simple sentence, that if something, if say given criteria is satisfied, then do A, or maybe do task one, else do task two. So this is the simple stuff. So if given criteria is satisfied, then do task one, else do task two. That is the underlying assumption of using the if function, and it is very natural, and we do this all the time. Maybe in a given day you will be using this concept, applying this concept to the daily routine throughout the day maybe. So let's use this concept in Excel, that how it is implemented and what is the syntax of this. The syntax is very simple, so I'm using the simple just if this is the criteria, I'm using the letter C that indicate a criteria, then the comma, this is the action one, and this is the action 2 or maybe the task 2 what I'm referring to. So this is the basic uh, syntax. So it says that if this given criteria is satisfied, perform this task A1, and if this criteria is does not satisfy, perform area 2. So if this is satisfied, this is A, do A1, else do perform A2. So this is actually the basic. Now we will be using this is in this particular example. Okay, so this is the basic assumption is I've inserting few comment maybe yes. Okay, so what we actually want to do. So whenever you will see something, the right upper right corner red mark, it indicate I have inserted a comment here and it will give you some information. So if I click on this, so what we want to then equal to 5,000, then bonus rate is 10%, and if sale is less than 5,000, then the bonus rate is 5%. So what actually we want to do? Using this concept, and the concept is that criteria is satisfied, task is the 10% is the bonus rate, and the second task bonuses. One is the 10% and the second one is the 5% based on the criteria set, and the criteria is the sales is either greater than 5,000 or less than 5,000. Okay, so let's build this thing uh, from the scratch. So let's develop a criteria first. Whenever there is a criteria, it almost in the it is in the form of a relational expression. Relational expression is one that is used to maybe compare two values in some way. So I want to compare this value with 5,000, and the requirement is that what I need to do, I need to check whether this value is greater than 5,000. So look at this, if the sale value is greater than greater than or equal to 5,000. So I'm developing a criteria that this value, which is E7, greater than or equal to 5,000. So this is my criteria. So look at this is the criteria and this is the relational expression, and this is the criteria I want to use in my function. So this criteria or this condition will give me two answers. One answer is that yes, the value is in E7 is greater than or equal to 5,000 is true, is right, or the value in E7 may be less than 5,000. So in this, the value is 6,000, which is greater than or equal to 5,000. It means this expression, this criteria will give me a true value. So look at it. So this is comes out to be true. And similarly, if I drag this down, because I'm using a relative reference, and if I copy this, E7 become E8 in this cell, this value will be evaluated against this, and then we will get the true series of true false values. So we have one true value, we have one true value, and rest are all the false. So it means whenever we have the true value, it means the criteria is satisfied, and where we have the false value, the criteria is not satisfied. So now it says whenever this expression, the criteria will give you true, then we can have an option of doing this, or if this give us a value false, we can do that. So that we can do through if function. So let me complete this function. So this is if this is the criteria, right, comma, and then what we want to do, just we want to see what is the rate. So let me 10%, comma 5%. So that we want to do. Just want to insert the bonus rate. It simply says that if this expression can give you provide a true answer, then the cell this cell should contain 10%, or if this expression gives you false, it should contain 5%. So where we have true instances, we will get 10%, and where we have false instances, we will have the 5%. Let's check it. So this is zero point 0.1 means 10%, and 0.05 means 10%. So we have, in this case, the value is 6,000, which is more than 5,000. We have 10%, and we have 10% here. So in this case, the sale is what we have, the value which is more than 5,000. So based on this simple concept, we can do a lot of calculations. We can perform many things. This is the basic thing. Let me do something like this. Now I want to calculate the bonus. So in order to do those, just need to just rewrite this function. Now then multiply 10% by E7 multiplied by E7. So 10% multiplied by E7, comma 5% multiplied by E7 will give you the actual bonus based on what is actually the case. Okay, I've used actually multiplication E7, the center. So this is 10%, and if I copy it down, so based 5%, 10%, 5%, 10% based on these values. So this is actually the case. So this is another example. Now, if you have any question on this, please let me know. No questions so far? Okay, now this is the task for you, a very simple task. Do that. You have the same name. This is the basic pay. The increment rate. So based on if basic pay is greater than or equal to, say, okay, just there is a minor mistake. Let me clear it. So it is actually if basic pay is greater than or equal to 30,000. Tax rate is 20%, and if basic pay is less than 30,000, tax rate is 10%. So what you need to do is you need to write a if function in order to calculate first the increment rate, which is in this particular column you should get 10% or 20%, and then you need to multiply this with the basic pay in order to get the revised basic pay. So I'm giving you 2 minutes to do that. Okay, I hope majority of you have done this bit. It should be very, very simple. But for those who are unable to do that, let me do this for them. Now the requirement is very simple. The requirement says that if basic pay is greater than or equal to 30,000, then the increment rate may be uh, 20%. And if it is less than 30,000, then tax rate is 10%. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to just see that whether the tax rate is calculated based on this value correctly or not. Otherwise, there is no need to use, because it's the criteria set by the management, because that if the basic pay is this much, then the increment rate should be this, and if it is less than 30,000, the increment rate should be this. So as far as the criteria is concerned, it is already given, it is already stated, it is already being told by the top management to the person who actually doing this stuff. So as far as the criteria is concerned, it is not our headache, it is set by uh, other people. Or maybe in few of the cases we do, but in majority of the cases it is set by the management. So what we need to do, I can either determine that this Ali will be incremented by this much. So the question maybe says that I want to see that the Ali is incremented by what rate. So just I want to use this particular formula, if function, to determine that Ali is being incremented by what rate. So in order to do that is equal to, if, now my logical expression to check whether level greater than or equal to 30,000. If this is true, then this cell should contain 20%. And if this expression turn out to be false, then this should contain 10%. So I just want to see my requirement is, or maybe for the reporting purposes, my requirement is this. I want to know that which employee is incremented by which rate. So I've used this, or in order to just to clarify, just to check that these employees have this basic pay, and on the basis of the basic pay they are being incremented by this much rate. So when I get this rates, so my the task become very, very easy. So what I need to do is I need to multiply this with this, and I will get the revised pay. So this is actually not I need to use this as well. So this plus this plus this. So because this is actually the pay and this is the incremented pay. So this plus this will be the revised pay. So this is how it works, and that what is actually required. So this is the basic pay. Ali is being incremented. So now he will be getting 79,606.8. This is the revised pay. I hope the question is answered and that what actually we want. So now if you have any questions.
There are still some questions that we are looking at the contribution more. Okay, the questions. Anvesh Roy is saying this means that this is the increment rate. Ijazul Haq is saying, oh, I would use if K7 is greater than 30,000, K7 you multiply by 20%, or K7 you multiply by 10%, bracket close.
Okay, now the concept should be very easy. It simply says that what, in simple English, let me express, that what I want to do, I want to see that what this value is. This value is greater than 30,000 or less than 30,000. Now, if this value is greater than 30,000, this should be multiplied by 20%, right? In order to get the incremented value at this, so that we have the revised basic. That's actually I want to do. So I did that in two steps. First, just to verify that this Ali should get 20% raise, and he will get the 20% raise if the value of the basic pay is 30,000 or more. So in order to check, I need this function if K7 is greater than 30,000. So this will give me the true value if Ali has a basic pay greater than 30,000. So if it is, then the increment rate is 20%. So 20% we will get in this case. So in this particular case, Zahid, the basic pay of Zahid is 11,081. So it means this value is less than 30,000. So he should be incremented by 10%. So this is the check I want to perform. So once this is the case, I can multiply this value with this. So I will get the, let me do this. So this value multiplied by the L7, which is the 20%. So this will give me the amount that Ali is being raised, and this should be added to the K7 in order to get the revised a basic pay. I think that is actually the case.
Yes, there's only one other question. The question is from Usman Khan, and he's saying, sir, can we get the desired result in L7 in place of formula result of 0.02?
Why not? It is up to you how you design your sheet. It is up to you how you organize your data, right? There is no need to use this. I can simply do this. So the formula or the function become a bit complex. Right now, I'm just elaborating the concept. You can, the task may be that if K7 is a case, 20% should be multiplied by this value, and then the resulting value will be added to the basic pay, and you will get the answer. So yes, you can develop a formula in such a manner that whatever result you want to have in L7, you can have it. There is the way, yes, you can. I think I should be going further, right? Because we have, okay. Now, since we have covered this, now move to the next concept, and that is the nested if. The nested if is the extension of if function. So at times, the task is not that easy. The task is not that easy. So maybe we have to calculate based on multiple criteria. Just I'm giving you one simple example right here. Okay, for example, look at this. So this is my site to perform and this is your site to perform. So let me complete my site first. So I have this criteria, and that is now I have the categories. So if the sales is greater than or equal to 5,000, the bonus will be 5% of the sale. If the sale is greater than or equal to 3,000 and less than 5,000, it should be 3%. So I have certain bonus brackets. So I need to give them bonuses based on this criteria. So I have one, two, three, four criteria, four conditions that need to be evaluated. And based on this criteria, I need to perform this sort of a calculation. So this can't be done through simple if. This can't be done through simple if. So that is not be able, we will not be able to do that. So in order to evaluate multiple criteria and then perform appropriate calculations, we need to understand the concept of the nested if. The concept is very simple and it is built in this function, and it says that if we have first criteria is not satisfied, instead of using a to induct another if function. So let me just type it for you, the basic concept. If C1, C1 is the criteria one. So if criteria 1 is satisfied, perform action 1. And if this criteria does not satisfy or it will give us a false value, it means A1 will not be executed. Now inserting another if function. So if criteria 2, perform A2, and you can go up to 64 times if C3 comma C4 and sorry C3 and A3, sorry A3, and so forth. uh, 1 2 3, I think it's more than enough. So 1 2 and 3. So this is the basic idea. Remember, you can have 64 levels.
The last condition should not have a comma and to a false value.
Okay, just hang on. Yes, we can have this. We can have this. Okay, it simply says that if criteria 1 is satisfied, perform A1. If criteria 1 does not satisfy, move to this else part, and we have used another if function. If C2 is satisfied, perform A2, and if C2 does not satisfied, go to the next if. If C3 is true, then perform A3, else A4. You can go up to 64 levels, and that is what we call the nested levels. So nest if in if function. So using same function in the that function is what we call the nested function. So we have if in that if function, we have another if in that we have another, and so on and so forth. So that is the concept of the nested function. So we have this problem right now in front of us, and we want to get the calculation of the bonuses, identify the bonus Ali Wali should get, and we will be using this concept. Now let me write it for you, is equal to if the first condition is sales is greater than 5,000. So if the value of sale is in where the value of in is E22, if it is greater than or equal to 5,000, what we need to do? We need to multiply sale by 5%. So E22 should be multiplied by how much? 5%. If this will give us a false value, this will not be executed. Instead, we will be using another if statement in order to check the second, and the second is the 3,000 sale is greater than 3,000 but less than 5,000. Now remember over here that this is false. So it means cell E22 does not have a value which is greater than or equal to 5. So we are 100% sure that E22 does not have a value which is more than 5,000. So it means we are left with the value in E22 which is less than 5,000. So second will should apply. So if E22 is greater than or equal to 3,000, then what we need to do? So we need to multiply E22 multiplied by how much? 3%. So 3%. And if E20, this expression will give us a false value, then again it means that E22 does not contain a value which is greater than 3,000. It must be less than 3,000. So we can apply the third one, and that is if this E22 greater than or equal to 2,000, then E2 should be multiplied by how much? 2%. So 2%. If this is false, then it simply means that E22 has the value which is less than 2,000. So in that case, we don't need to use another if function. We can simply say that E22 should be multiplied by 1%. So we have opened 1, 2, 3 parentheses. We know we should have we should have closed by 3 parentheses. Now this is actually the function. If this condition is satisfied, true, we will have this calculation. If this is false, we will go to this if function. If this expression if is true, then it will perform that. If it is false, then we'll move to the third one. If this is true, this will perform this function, and if this is false, this will be calculating this function and click. If I press enter, I will get the 30,000. So let's see. So as per the rule, as per the criteria, it is if it is more than 5,000, it should be multiplied by 5% of the sale. So 5% of 6,000 is 300. So this calculation is correct. And if I go down, so I have, this is the bonus I can have. Any question on this? Because after this, you will be doing this, the same stuff, or maybe you can do this.
If calculating interest on a loan where the percentage of interest would change, let's suppose 45 days from the date of issue, how can we calculate that using the if function?
So actually, I'm just saying, discussing that how particular function is being used in certain cases, right? So the question he is referring to, that he's saying that he want to calculate something, and that is we have the 45 days passed, and he actually wants to calculate that how much installment would be, right? That is actually the case. Now, in order to do so, first of all, we need to understand another function which is known as the PMT function. So PMT function will be used to calculate uh,
His question is like he says, let's say the date of issue is 1st January, interest is 10%, and after 45 days, interest would change to 12%.
okay. So, okay, again, what we need to do is now we have a scenario where we have two time frames. One is from 1st January, and after 45 days, the interest rate has been changed. So that it is not possible in this particular context. So it simply says that at a given point of time, it simply says that it is at a given point of time, that is actually the case. So we can't say that after 45 days, no, after 45, it is something else now. So now you are changing the criteria after 45 days. So it will be evaluating in different way, right? It is the calculation which is done on run time, right? So this cannot be done in that particular way. So what calculation is done that way. So yes, we can do that in some other context. That is, uh, whenever at after 45 days, the value need to be changed to 12%. So after 45 days, what we need to do, we need to modify our if function, and wherever we have put our percentage, we need to change that to that percent, which is given to us by maybe some other body, right? So that is actually the case. Another question? No question?
So one question, what is the importance of order of arguments? What if start, in this example, if E22 is less than 2000 and then so on.
Okay, just hang on. I have actually answered that question in my. Now, look at this. We have a certain hierarchy. The certain hierarchy is that first of all, I have evaluated that this particular cell I've checked is for 5,000. Yes, I've checked this cell that whether this value contain a value which is higher than 5,000. If this give me a true answer, then definitely this cell will contain a value which is 5,000. But if it is give me a false result, so I'm 100% positive that this cell does not contain a value higher than 5,000, right? So just check this. So if this value greater than 6,000, let's check. So this is sorry, this is 5,000, right? 5,000. So this gives me a true value. It indicates that this cell does contain a value which is higher than 5,000. If I change it to say 4,999, then see what will happen, false. So it means that this expression will give me the answer, and this means the guarantee, if it is false, that this E22 does not contain a value which is higher than 5,000, right? So once it is the case, then I can go for the second one, 3000. So the second level, if this gives me the false value, same case that it guarantee me, it assures me that this cell does not contain a value which is higher than 3000. So in the first instances, I know that this cell does not contain a value higher than 5000. Now in the second instance, I have checked and I know that this cell does not contain a value which is higher than 3000. And same goes with the rest. So whenever you need to use the nested if function, so you need to sort your criteria starting from okay. Now in that case, what you need to do is first of all just evaluate the ranking of these people based on this criteria, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, rank 1, 2, 3, 4. You 2 minutes, you can do that. Just do that. Then we will move further. Just 2 minutes for okay. I hope you have done this, and for those who haven't able to done this, I'm doing it for them. So what I want is that I want to rank these people based on their sales performance. So it's equal to if using the nested if function. So I want this value greater than or equal to how much 5000. So if this is the case, we should have R1. Okay. Remember one thing, whenever we have to put a text, we should use the quotes, the inverted commas. The text should be built in inverted commas. So R1. So R1 stands for rank 1. So if sales volume is this much or greater than this much, he should be ranked 1. If it is not, then move to the second criteria, and that is that if E2 is say greater than or equal to, the next one is 3000, then it should be R2. R2 stands for rank 2. And if it is not the case, then go to the third one, and that is E2 is greater than or equal to 2000. And then we have the rank 3, or else we have rank 4, and then close it. So this is, now let me narrate the concept here. If sale is greater than or equal to 5000, then Ali should have been marked ranked 1. And if this sale value is not greater than 5000, we have checked this, that if this value is greater than or equal to 3000, yes, if it does, then Ali should be ranked or second. And if this give us a false value, then we should check this one, and this will check if the sale value is greater than 2000, then Ali should be ranked R3. If it is not, then else R4. So this is our 4 criteria being evaluated, and the ranked Ali will be ranked accordingly. Just click enter and we see R2, drag it down, and we have the multiple people ranked as per their performance. So just to verify 4999, let me go back to the 6000 value. I'll see whether ranking is changed. Yes, it does. So R1 Ali is ranked 1 because now his sales is 6000. So R1, R3, R4, the people has been ranked. So this is actually the case.
There's an interesting question by question saying, can we have a condition which says greater than 3000 and less than 5000? So when we told them about the and not operators, you have, because they need that.
So this question should be answered automatically. Okay, fine. Kaushik, it's an interesting question, as Harun just pointed out. So far, we have been evaluating one condition, one criteria at one given point of time. Now the question is that we want to evaluate 2 criteria simultaneously. So let's go back to this simple scenario. Let me do this. So look at this. Maybe his question is this. So calculate tax as per the following rules. If basic pay is greater than or equal to 25,000 and designation is equal to manager, then tax is 12%, else tax is 10%. So the assumption says that we have to calculate the tax, right? That is, the tax should be 12% in the case when the basic pay is 25,000 and the designation is manager. So we have 2 criteria. So based on 2 criteria, we want to do calculation of tax. That can be done in two ways. One is with the nested function, right? But then the function become, if function become very complex. Then the function become very complex. The function become very complex, right? So what I'm saying, yes, we can do this with the nested if function. The first will check the first criteria, then the second one, and both are satisfied, then do that. So in that case, the function is very complicated and maybe complex. So we can simplify this function for that sort of calculation with the help of another interesting, a very simple and straightforward function, which is known as the and or not function. So and function, just let me, okay, first of all, let me do that. Okay. Now, the first function is known as the AND function. AND function is a function that evaluate two or more than two criterias and will result either in the false or in the true. So it means AND function first of all evaluate what is the value returned by C1 or what is the value returned by C2. So criteria 1 and criteria 2, if criteria 1 is satisfied, criteria 2 is satisfied, means both are true, then and will give us a true value, right? So it simply means that if we want to do something like this, which is actually the case, that if the basic pay is 25,000 is true and designation is equal to manager again and so we want to ensure that both condition is true, then and function will give us a true value, and if either of the criteria is false, the and function will give us a false value. So let me say show you that what actually I meant. So this is C1, this is C2. So I am using the value true and true. So C1 will give us a true value, C2 will give us a true value. So we may have four options. Either this value is true or this value is false. Similarly, this might be false, this might be true, and both may be false. So these are the four possible combination we may have. If we have two criteria just like this, so basic pay, yes, we may have basic pay greater than 25,000 and we have designation is equal to manager. In that scenario, the first criteria 1, criteria 2, both are true. Maybe we have the instances where basic pay is greater than 25,000 but designation is not manager. That is the second instance. Maybe we don't have a basic pay greater than 25,000. That is false. And we have the designation is equal to manager. That is true. But we may have a scenario where the basic pay is less than 25,000 and designation is not a manager. So we may have four possible combinations here. And function will combine those two and will evaluate that whether this should return a true value or the false value. How we have to use and function. So and function, we need to check whether this is true or this is false. So we have the true value In this case, AND function should result a true value. So let's see, we have the true value. Now in the second case, this is true, this is false, and will give us a false value in the rest of the cases. So AND function ensure that the condition 1 is true, condition 2 is true, if both are true, or maybe the n number of conditions that we have combined, if all are true, then AND function will give us a true value, and that true value will be important value, and we will be using, because we have to use this value in our, right? So that is actually the case. So in that case, what we want to know, we have say, let me, if I do that, so not here, let me do this, because I want to insert, to just to elaborate, this is my criteria 1, and that is for criteria 1 is, I just want to check whether designate basic pay is 25,000 or not. So this value is greater than or equal to 25,000. So this is my first criteria, and that is actually, so this will give me a false value. And this is my criteria 2. This is my criteria 2. This will give me what actually I want. I want to see whether this cell contain a manager. If it does, yes. So we have the false true instance. That's it. So if I combine, let me another. So this is AND function I'm using, and C1 comma C2. So I'm using is equal to AND this value and this value. Press enter, I will get the false one, right? So let's just check very quickly what actually the case. So we have false true, false false, false false, and we have true true, and we have false false. So you see that we have these 4 possible combinations coming up, and we will have false false value. We should have false. We should have true value here, because both the criteria are true based on this same concept. So this is actually the case. So this is true. Now I'm using this concept, this AND function, in order to do this. So what actually I'm trying to do, if and my criteria is what, that and this equal to 25,000, then this value is equal to manager. So this is criteria 1, this is criteria 2, we have connected it with AND. Now this should result 1 true or false values, and based on this true or false value, if function will perform the action, and the actions are that this tax will be calculated either by 12% or by 10%. So that is what it is. So this is criteria 1, this is criteria 2, this criteria either is true or false, it is true or false, whatever the case may be, and will only give us a true value if both the criteria are true. So if it is true, and will give us a true value, and that true, based on that true value, either this calculation will be performed, or if it provides a false, this will be this calculation will be performed. And if I press enter, and you will see I will get the text 18%, and in that case, which is actually the true value, this provided as a true value, and this is we got the 36. I hope his question has been answered. If you have any question, please free to ask right now, because before going to break, we have few minutes available with us.
No question yet. Salam is asking, can you kindly share the recording for the webinar? Yes, the recording will be shared once the session is over. Because the system takes about, 3 or 4 hours to compile the recording, and then it's available. So you will automatically get an email from the system that the recording is now available, and you can view it again. But so far so good. I think that's all. We can take a break now.
Okay, just let me finish this concept so that I will move to the next sheet. Okay, similarly, we can have another.
There's another question. I'm not sure why it's coming now, but Faisal, Mohammed Faisal is saying that you can have, if you give us the Excel file, so they can practice questions and ask questions. The Excel file is available as a handout.
Yeah.
If you look at the GoToWebinar menu that will be there, the handouts option, there it says 1 of 5. So if you expand that option, the Excel file that whom the trainer is working on is provided there. You can download it and you can open it and perform all the commands for it. I announced that at the beginning also, but I thought people will miss that. So just make that announcement here.
Okay. Okay, let me go through this, the remaining part of this sheet very quickly. Okay, we have another function which is known as the OR function. So we have just gone through the AND function that states that if we have the multiple criteria connected to each other with an AND, the AND will only provide you the true instance where all the connected criteria are true. So, and we will be using that true value in our if function. Now there are scenarios where we want to have a true value based on maybe one criteria is true or the other criteria is false. If you look at this particular example, and the example says very simple that this part, and if says, okay, if it says calculate medical allowance as per following rules. If designation is either manager or medical allowance, then it is 60%, or else is 50%. So it means it is one particular employee has one designation only, that is if he is a manager or a supervisor. He can't be a manager or a supervisor at the same time. So we want to provide them a facility of medical allowance only to those people who are either manager or a supervisor. So we want to check first that a person is either a manager or supervisor. Based on this, we will be performing this calculation, and we can do that with the OR functions. So OR function says, let me, where is, I think, okay. The OR function says, this is the possible combination we have, and now I will be using the OR function, or say C1 comma C2. In that case, I want to ensure that one of the criteria is true. So maybe is equal to or, and then we have either this true value and this true value. So, and we have very quickly, so we have this case, true, 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 and this is false. So if all the criteria connected with or are false, or will give you the false value, where in all other cases, whether both are true or one is true, then it will give us a true value. So this we will be using in this particular concept, that we will combine two conditions with an or to satisfy in order to perform this calculation. If either of the criteria is true, whether designation is manager or the supervisor, then the medical allowance will be 60%. So in order to do so, just very quickly, let me write it for you. Or first of all, if, then or, what I'm looking at, if this value is equal to manager, comma, and again this value is equal to a supervisor, right? So this is bracket close. So if this is true, then this will give us a true value, or if this is true, this will again a true value. Both cannot be false, both cannot be true, or both cannot be false in that case. Now if this is true, then or will provide us a true value, and then we will, what we will do, we need to calculate that medical allowance, that is 60% of the basic pay. So that is actually the case. So 60%, or else 50% into 50%. So that is actually the case. Fine. So now I think it's okay. So we have, this is the case. So again, you can verify. Then this is the manager, this is the supervisor, this is the 60% assistant, this is the, sorry, manager and supervisor is 50%, 60% assistant, 50% supervisor, they are all 60% helper. This is again, so these two values will, medical allowance will be based on the 50% and the rest is the 60%. So this is how we can use the and the or function. Okay, we are left with one function, which is the if error function, and I think I will be using this function in some of the more practical ways when I will discuss the VLOOKUP. So I'm deferring this function till we will be discussing the VLOOKUP or lookups function. So I think it will be more appropriate to use that. The concept is very simple. If a given function will provide you an error, then we can do something else, or we can, this is primarily a error handling function. So if a given function will provide you an error, so instead of error message, we can provide our own customized error message, or we want to perform some other calculation if a particular function or a calculation give us an error. So I think it will be more appropriate if we discuss that function in webinar number 3, which is in which we will be discussing the VLOOKUP function. So if you have any questions, you can ask, or if not, then we will be having our 5-10 minutes break.
Yeah, people saying not functional. So
okay,
that's one. And there's another question by Faiza. And question of ACCA, I've asked her to write the question again. She wanted was, can you please, yes, Yeah, people saying about the not function, so you can explain that.
Okay. Again, at times in okay, first of all, I will give you what actually the not function. So not function is very simple. We know that a given criteria or a condition will give us a true or a false value. The objective of not function is that if some criteria is giving us a true value and for some reason we want to change it to false, then we will be using the not function. That is actually the case. So let me give you that how we should use it. So look at here, we have the true values here. So I want to transform these values to true to false. So I will be using the not function, and this is actually the case. So I've used the not case 6, case 61 is true, and this has converted into a false. And this, since this is a false function, false value, not function has changed it to true. So the basic concept is of using the not function. The not function will change a true value to false and false to true, and in majority of the, in some of the cases, very sophisticated and delicate requirement, we will be using this logical function. Sometime we want to exclude something from a given condition, so there we will be using the not function. So the concept is very easy, and maybe in later webinars I will be using this concept, but that is actually the case. So I think I've given you what not function is, and I've explained that I will be using the if error function in the later webinar. So if we don't have any question,
No, amazing, but in what situation we use the not?
maybe if you want to exclude that designation as manager, or I want to exclude that part.
No, one example could be that if I suppose there are 10 designations, and there's only one designation which you want to be decided. So rather than listing down
Yes,
all
yes.
nine, you just say if not that, so
Yes.
that's exactly one.
That is actually the case.
Um, Abdul Basit is saying, can you please share a practice question where not function applies because it's not common?
Okay, I will.
Let's give them as a task for the week.
Okay, yes, that is. Thank you very much. Okay, fine. I'm giving you one task, right, as suggested by Honorable Harun Saab, and that is that find out one, at least one scenario where you could be using the not function, right? So a very basic concept is that if you have certain designation and you want to exclude a particular designation, that this designation should not be the part of this calculation. So where you can, so similar, in similar context you can do that. So let's have a break of about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and after that we will resume, right? Okay, I'm just typing that first of all that we are having 10 minutes break because there are lots of question on this. So we are having a 10 minutes break. Now in break you are required to find a scenario where you can where you can use the not function, right? See you in, okay, see you in 10 minutes. Okay, fine. We are back, and I hope majority of you have find out certain scenario. If you do, you can share it in your question box. But first of all, I have one. We have two questions, and somebody have asked that is there any possibility that we can apply a function? Let me just do that a bit. Okay. Can we have combined two criteria? One is from the basic pay and other is from the designation with or. Yes, we can. For example, the person can be a manager and have a basic pay which is less than 20,000. Yes, either the designation is manager or the designation the basic pay is less than 20,000. He or she can get the 60% of the allowances. Yes, we can. It's very, very simple. Just you need to uh, develop a criteria just as we did so far. And the second question is, what was the second question, sir?
While managing time, can you
Okay.
use the non-function?
Yes, there was a question that is that in order to manage your time, can we use the and or not function? Yes, we can. It depends on the particular scenario, the particular problem that we have. We can do that. So that is not the case. So one very simple question that I have in my mind, and that is in this particular example that what we are doing so far in medical allowances, the scenario is that if the designation is manager or the supervisor, we are providing them the 60% basic pay, 60% allowance based on their basic pay. Now, being more sympathetic to the assistant and the helper, the management has reversed the decision and they say that the helper and the assistant should be given 60% medical allowance of their basic pay, and whereas the manager and the supervisor they should be given 50% of the medical allowances. So what you need to do is you need to reconstruct a formula using or not, then the assistant and the helper should get the 60% of the medical allowances. So I want you to write a formula in your and type it, and let's see you will be able to do that or not. Just do that. I'm giving you a minute or two. Just do that. So I'm repeating the question. The question is that instead of manager and supervisor, it is the assistant and the helper who should be given 60% of the basic pay as the medical allowances, whereas the manager and the supervisor should be given 50% of the basic pay as the medical allowance. So that is the scenario now. So write a formula that will perform this calculation. So just do that.
Should I open up the question box?
So I hope some of you have done that. If you do, please let us know.
Type in the question box.
Hmm?
Type in the question box.
Okay, write your formula in the question box.
The question box share the others everyone can see.
Okay, the question box is being shared right now, and you can see the responses from various attendees. Right, you can have a look what other attendees has written a function. Be quick. Are we having few? It should be very simple. There should be a very minor adjustment to the existing function that we have here. Not yet. Okay, there is one.
Faiza has sent her response.
The question box, right? The red one.
Which is right.
We can
Chat.
the questions. Third from last. इसको वो करिए ना बाहर निकाल
कैसे बात क्या
क्लोज के साथ yes
so okay. Okay, Faiza Habib. Okay, great. Faiza Habib have done that.
Abdul Basit has also given an answer.
Abdul Basit. Okay. Shazad Ali is trying and he has done that.
If which one is correct, they're different.
Yes. Okay. Now they're coming.
Faisal Rahman, yes.
Okay, the things are coming. Fine. Okay, if you look at the response given by Faiza Habib, so we have already done that this is actually the case. If the designation is manager or okay, so there is a minor adjustment to it. Define the close answer is okay. Just a second. The close answer is given by the Faiza Habib, but there is a minor the thing that we need to do. Let me correct it. Okay, so just what you need to do is just type not here and then close it. So now this should revert. So that is actually the case. So the scenario is different. So what you need to do is just you need to insert the not upfront of the existing formula and the role is completely changed. So the assistant and the super helper will get 60% and the rest, the manager and the supervisor, they will get the 50%. Okay, fine. So let's proceed to the next one since we are short of time.
and we need to do it very, very quickly. Now, the next sheet is the map function. So we will be doing something very, very important function here, but the simple one. Absolute function, round, round up, round down, rand between rand, sum if and sum if functions. Okay, let's go through. So absolute function is the function that will return a true value. What actually is the value is being returned by the absolute function. So all the negative values will be returned or will be converted into positive. For example, we have 20.5. If you look at this particular formula, so it's remains the same because it is positive, and this is minus 21.5, and then we want to have the absolute value, which is actually the positive value, absolute C4. So this will give the positive value. Okay, now move back to the round function. Round function, the rand function. Okay, so the rand function is a function normally is used to generate the random value between 0 and 1. Sometimes it is necessary to generate those values, right? So I'm just giving you the idea that how rand function is used. Rand function is one of the few functions that does not have any arguments. So if you look at this, we have the rand and 0, and that is actually the case. So and if you want to have a random number generated between 1 and 10, what you need to do is just multiply the rand by 10. So this will give you the values between 1 and 10. So you can modify it further, maybe 20, 30, whatever. So normally these are used for maybe for reason where you want to conduct a research, maybe random sampling and stuff like this. Similarly, you want to have we have a rand between functions, and this function will generate random values between two limits. One is, for example, in this particular case, rand between 25 and 50. This will generate a random number between 25 and 50. If we have a certain specific values and a bounded range, we can use this function. So we can have a round function. So round function is a function that will give you the rounding value to certain decimal positions. And this function is very, very important in a sense that we may find an error known as the rounding error. So if you have a rounding error, and a small rounding error can have a great implication in the outcome of the result. So we need to understand is very, very, the understanding of this function is important in that context. So round function is very simple, and the round function simply has the basic assumption that we have already knew, that if any value, any decimal value which is greater than 5 or above, it will be incremented by 1, and if the value is less than 5, then it will be decremented by 1. So that is the basic assumption, and we can have this. So round M3, comma 2, it simply means that we want to transform, we want to round this value by 2 decimal places. So that is actually the case. And here, what we want to do, we want to round down. Round down means they want enforce Excel to round down the value. If the value is less than 5, truncate that, right? Any value which is, for example, look at this, 25.658, I want to round down to 2 decimal places. So what will happen? 8 will be truncated. And similarly, I have the value which is 25.658, and I want to round up. So this is the 5, this is the 8, So this will give you the value incremented by one place. So this is how it goes. So these are important functions. You should uh, apply it very cautiously and when your requirement is. So next, now let's move to the sum if function. This is one of the important function, and everyone who is using Excel should know this function, right? So one is the if function, the nested if function, and the second important function is the sum if function. Uh, One survey suggests that almost 80% of the organizations uses this function. So we should be knowing this function very, very clearly because this is the important function and majority of the people who knows Excel, they use these functions. Concept is very simple that we want to sum few values, but from a list, from a range, but we want to uh, uh, sum it based on certain criteria, some a condition. For example, maybe calculate sum of values which is equal to 10. So if we have this range and if we want to add all those values which are equal to 10, so we need to write a function. In order to write a function, first of all, we need to understand the syntax, and the syntax says some value, sum if, range, criteria, sum range. So I told you earlier in my first webinar on basic Excel, if you have a syntax and that syntax contain something that is enclosed in square brackets, that is an optional part. Optional part means that we, if required, you can use it, and if you not use it, or if it is not required, avoid it. But anything which is not enclosed in the square brackets are the mandatory arguments, and without these, your function will not work. So in this particular case, sum range is an optional part. So we have the range and we have the criteria we should be using in this. So it says that sum if we have the range, so this is the range, and in this range we want to add those values which are equal to 10. So our criteria should be very simple. So you need to provide your criteria in this particular example in the case of uh, equal to 10 with double quotes. So it simply means that we are applying a condition to the sum function that if this criteria is met from this list, this will identify all those values based on this criteria and will sum all those values. So 10, 10, 10, and 10, we should be having our answer equal to 40. So we have the answer 40 because in this particular range there are 4 instances of value equal to 10. So similarly, we have another example. We have the sum. We want to sum all those values which are greater than 30. So we have few values here which are greater than 30, not equal to 30, which we want to add those values. So sum if the range is this one, so this is our range, comma, then we have greater than or equal to, no, not equal to, greater than 30. So this is, we want to add all those values from this particular range which are greater than 30. So now we have the answer equal to 230. You can check it. We have 40. We have again 40, 80, 80, and this is 130. 130 and 100 is 230. So we have the answer equal to 230. So that is how sum if function using. So there is another example here, and example says, so we have account type, and we have certain values associated with these account, rupees in thousands. So what we want to do, calculate sum of AP, accounts payable, and calculate of sum of AR, account receivable, from this particular data set. So now in this example, we have using this range, right? Now we have the criteria range and the criteria in one range, and we want to add those values based on the criteria set on that range. So what we need to do now, we can't be using this now. Sorry, we can't be using this part, but now this optional argument now be using in order to accomplish this. So sum range, the sum if, we have the sum is now the range and the criteria. Now look at here, the range and the criteria means this is our range where we need to set the criteria, comma, and then we have a sum range. But before that, we need to set the criteria, and the criteria is that we have an AP. So we have AP, and then we have the sum range equal to this one. So the answer should be, we have 160. So in this particular case, we have all those values identified as AP, and from this range, the corresponding value will be identified. So in this case, we have like this, and let me very quickly go through. So we have one AP, we have another AP, we have this, we have this, we have this, and we have this. So it is performing like this. So we have this function has done that, identified AP from this range, because we have set the criteria that the value is AP, and the corresponding range, which is the sum range. So identify the value corresponding to the AP value, and then in the end apply a sum function and give us the answer. So I'm giving you a minute. I'm giving you a 1 minute to write a same function in order to calculate the account receivable. Do it quickly. Just a minute. So calculate of sum of account receivable from this list. Okay, fine. I hope you have done that. It should be quite easy and simple. Okay, now, similarly, as we have in some if function we have two multiple criterias, sorry, two criterias, and based on two criterias we can do something. So similarly, we can have a multiple criteria set here. So calculate sum of values which are greater than 10 and less than 30. So can we do that? The answer is no with the sum if function, because sum if function will give us only that functionality that based on one single criteria you can sum up few values. But we can have another important function that is known as sum ifs function, and sum ifs function is added in 2007 version onward. Before that we have only sum if functions. Now we have the luxury of using sum ifs function from 2007 onward, and we can have multiple criteria set, and on the basis of that we can sum few values from a given range. So what is the syntax? Syntax is very simple, but there is a small change in the syntax that whenever you have the sum ifs function, the sum range will come first and followed by the criteria range and the criteria. So let me very quickly, this is for example the sum ifs function. This is SCR's sum range. It comes first, then the criteria range 1, criteria 1, similarly criteria range 2, and then criteria true, and so on and so forth. So this is the basic syntax of this. So we can do that. We have is equal to sum ifs, the sum range in this example is okay, this is actually, we have sum range is this, and we have the criteria range is this one. Once again, this is our criteria range, and in this criteria range the value is greater than 10, and then we have again the criteria range is the same, and in this we have the value less than 30. So it says that in some few values from this particular range based on the criteria range is, and the criteria is greater than 10, identify all those values which are greater than 10 and greater than 30 from this range. These are two different conditions connected together, and if both the conditions are met, then this will be executed, and see what will get the answer. We have answer 40, and just verify that we have, this is the one value 20, and this is okay, this is another value 20. So we have two values which comes under this range, and the answer is 40. So this is how it goes. So now you can do that here. I'm just giving you a minute, and in that minute what you need to do is use a sum if function and sum of sales based in Lahore. So we have Lahore and we have 10. So similarly we have Lahore and we have 20, and we have Lahore. So use a sum if function here, sum if, I'm not saying sum ifs. So use a sum if function to calculate the sum of sales of Lahore. I'm giving you a minute here. Do that. And in the meantime, somebody have asked any question on this sum if?
a member has answered 90.
Okay.
Can you kindly repeat some ifs having trouble with the
Okay, fine. I'm writing this for you. I'm using the sum if function. The sum if function is the range is, this is my criteria range, and my criteria is LHR, and then my sum range is this one, that is the sales. So what will happen? So in this particular range, this is the criteria, all those rows which having the value equal to Lahore will be identified, and in the corresponding column of the sales, the values will be identified, and in the end, all those values which based on Lahore will be added, and we will have the answer. So let's see, we have the answer 90, fine, same is the case with this, right? So let me very, very quickly go through with this sum if, and we have, in that case, this is our criteria range, and we have the criteria is equal to Kamran, and then we have these values from the sale range, and we have the answer again 90. Strange, but we have the answer in both the case. Let me just
So is this case sensitive? The condition testing is case sensitive, where I cap, comma and cap please.
not necessarily. It is not.
It's not.
It's not. But unless and until we enforce it to do that. Right, so I just changed the value 90 of one of the value of Kamran, so we see we have the values changed. Now, sum ifs function. Now we have two sum of sales by Mr. Kamran in Lahore region. Now we have multiple criteria, multiple conditions, and we want to sum of these values. So we have sum. Okay, I'm giving you a minute to do that, or I will do this. Okay, I'll do it for you and doing it. So is equal to sum ifs, sum range in that case is this. Then we have criteria range, comma, and we have LHR. Okay, LHR, and then we have Kamran, and this is so I have on this 20. So as Harun has pointed out a bit earlier, that it is the case sensitive, and I gave you the answer. It is not. So Kamran, and we have LHR. So written in a different way, just to elaborate the concept that the criteria setting is case insensitive, whatever you want, unless and until we force it to do, right? So this is actually the case. So you can use some ifs function. This is one of the practical way. And remember, you should be knowing this functions clearly, because in the later webinars, I will be using these functions again and again for report generation, for dashboard building. So you should know what are these functions. I will not be repeating this function in dashboard reporting webinar, right? So for all of you, I'm doing it for you. Sum if this is the case, and now I will be using okay, then Fn, I need to fix it because I need to copy this formula. So just recall relative and absolute reference. So I want to fix this, and then my criteria range is this one. I'm not fixing it, making it a relative because I want to copy it. I want to get the sum of Islamabad, Gujarat, and Faisalabad as well. So I won't be doing it. And then this is, again, I need to fix it because when I copy this formula, the reference will be changed. I want the reference should be changed of this only, and these two ranges will be fixed. So I've used the absolute reference and the relative reference, and then click OK. And then if I go down, I've got a very simple report, the region and the sales. Okay, fine. I hope the sum if and sum ifs functions are clear. If you have any questions, now you can ask, because I'm moving to the next sheet after this.
There's a question about something not being clear about the difference between sum if and sum ifs. One sentence.
Okay, sum if function utilizing only one criteria. There is one condition only. So we can use sum if function only when we have one criteria, but for multiple criteria, multiple conditions, we should be using sum if function. Okay, one thing is more that you can use a single criteria in sum if function as well, right? So maybe you should not be using the sum if function, only concentrate on sum ifs function if you wish, but sum if function is the only difference is the sum if function only cater one function at a time, whereas sum if function
One criteria.
One criteria at a time. One criteria at a time, yes. One criteria at a time, but sum is function uses many criteria in the evaluation. Any other question? If we
Now we're
do,
going to work on count if and count ifs as well. The concept is the same, but
okay, now yes, the concept is the same. The stat function, count if, these are actually the case. So I'm, yes, so that is the reason. Fine. So no questions from sum if function. Okay, is that the case? Okay, now let's move to the next sheet. And the sheet is stat function, because these functions are comes under the category of a statistical function. So count if, small, large, average ifs. Luckily, you have understood, or you should have understood, count if, sum if and sum if function. And if you do, then these two functions, count ifs, average should be the piece of cake. Very similar in nature. The count if function only count the particular instances based on certain criteria. Count ifs based on certain multiple criteria, and so do we average if and average ifs, right? So maybe I'm giving you, say, the task to perform this calculation, but I will not performing these. I will not be using this. You will be doing this stuff by your own. But very quickly, I will go through some of the basic functions, which is the count numeric values. For example, the count. Look at this. Let me very quickly, because we are running out of time. Okay. Okay. Now look. This is the range, and this range contains different values. We have the text value, and we have the numeric values, and even we have certain blank ranges. So this is actually the range I'm referring to. So this is the range. So in this particular range, we have certain numeric values, certain text, and we have certain blanks. So what I want to know, I want to count how many numeric values exist in this particular range. So I will be using the function count. So count, this is the range. So this will give me the number of values exist in this particular range. And then I want to know how many non-blank cell exist in this particular range. So this will provide me all those the number of cells that contains the non-blank that contains any value. Then we have the count black. The count black function will return the number of empty cells, the blank cells in this particular range. And sometimes that is one of the tricky questions that's one I encountered in one of the training session, that count the number of cells that have the text values. So I've used this function count A and count. So these are the functions that you can be applying. So count will give us the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numeric values. Count a non-blank cells. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this given 11. Then we have a count blank. So we have only two count cells. This is this one, and this is these are the two. And we have the count text values. So simply this minus this, you will give the 6. So these are the text values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is how it goes. Okay, fine. So we have the basics of the count. So count, count A, and the count blank. Now, average is very simple. So as we did in the first webinar, how to use the average function, you can just give the average, and we have the average, and this is actually what has to be done. So we have 137. This is the average cost. Now, here is the thing I want you to do. So how many brake shoes have been bought? You need to write a countif function similar in the nature as we did in SUMIF and COUNTIF. The COUNTIF function only count the values based on, okay, I will do it one thing for you. So count if, so the question is how many brake shoes have been bought? So count if, this is the range, and the criteria is brakes. So B-R-A-K-E-S, brakes. So this should give us the value 5. So we have 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many brakes should have been bought? This much. How many tires have been bought? So similarly, you can write a countif function, and the answer should be tires. We should have 2 over here. How many item cost more than 100 pounds? So you can simply do that. Okay, do that. I'm giving you a minute. Don't listen to me. Do that.
Okay.
If question, if there is any question, okay, do that.
Zishan says 4. Zishan is 4.
How many items cost this much? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer should be 5, because it's what it says. How many items cost this much or above? So it has to be equal to and greater than or equal to. It should not be
Ijaz will
more.
also saying 4. Ijaz will have is also saying 4.
How many items? Okay, I can do it here. So this is the range, and it says greater than equal to 100. Okay, my answer is 5.
Answer is 5 to 5. 5 comma 2.
5 to 5, yes, great. Okay, type the name of the item to be count is service. So how many service count is here? Do that very, very quickly. We don't have time.
There's a fan of yours who's just put in a comment saying he's been attending your Excel sessions since 2016.
My God.
My God, right? And he's saying you taught us everything except for macros in VBA. So is there any plan for doing that?
Okay.
Put it up. And I'm not sure.
Requested His Excellency
Oh,
has
come on.
that arrange one session on BB and macro for you guys. So let's see he accepted our suggestion or not.
No, if it is public demand, I will.
Okay, fine. So make it public. So you do a bit of marketing in your ACCA community. Okay, fine. I hope you have done that. So similarly, you can do this for every cost of breaks, average cost of service, average this. Fine. Now count ifs. So this is I do one thing for you and you will do one thing for me. How many breaks have been bought in April? So I'm writing a formula COU and T count ifs. So remember there are two conditions here. One is that the item is breaks and the second is the month is April. So we have multiple criteria, and for multiple criteria what we need to do? We need to use count ifs function, not count if. Count if only for one this. So we have the criteria range. This is our criteria range, and the criteria is breaks. And then we have the criteria range. This is our criteria range, and the criteria is April, and that's it. So we have how many breaks have been bought in April? So we have bought breaks in April. The count is 3. So one is April breaks, 2 April breaks, and the 3rd April breaks. So the count is right. So how many breaks have been bought in August? The only change in April becomes August. Then similarly, you can use the average ifs function. I hope you can do that very, very quickly. Are you doing it? I hope you do. Okay. Okay, fine. The last two question is the small and the large function. Sometime these are very handy functions to know, because in a given range, what we need to do, we need to find the nth largest or the nth smallest number of a given range. For example, look at this particular range, it has multiple values, and we want to find out the second smallest value of this range. So let me write small is the function, and then this is the array, this is the range or an array, and we want to identify the second smallest value. So 2 means the smallest value, right? Second smallest value. So just click enter and we have the 50. 50 is, so 25 is the one, and the second is, what is the third one? So is equal to small. This is the range. And then we have the third smallest value, and the smallest value is 80. So 25 is the first one, 50 is the second one, and the 80 is the third one. And then we have the large value. You can do is the same way, large. Then we have the array, uh, where is, okay, this is the array, and then we have the second, and enter, we have the 250. So let's see, let's just confirm that. So we have the 300, and then we have the 250. So this is the second largest value of within that existing range. So at times we need to identify those. So you should know these two small functions. Okay, now I am moving to the next one, and the next one is the date function, and the date function is again, these are very straightforward functions, and sometimes these are very handy to know because we may be using certain date calculations. Uh, let's see. Uh, these are some of the dates I have formatted like this simple. For example, this is the short date, right? And this is the long date. So I've just formatted it, the short date and the long date. And the long date, the reason that I formatted this as a long date because I want to know the name of the day as well. So the 6th of January 29, the day is Sunday, and on the January 17th, the day is Monday. So in order to see, we know we have 7 days in a week, and Excel manipulate uh, the week as 1, 2, 3, and set as the first day of the week is Sunday. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, and we have 4. So Sunday is 1, Monday is 2, Tuesday is 3, Wednesday is 4, and so on and so forth. So in order to determine the day of week, the function is very simple, and that is weekday of the date. So the input, the argument that weekday has must be a date. So this is the date formatted in a long date, and that is Sunday, and the first day of the week is Sunday, and the number assigned by Excel to Sunday is 1. So weekday will return 1 if the day represent Sunday. So similarly, Monday is 2, and so on and so forth. So this is what actually the case. Similarly, we have another function which is the day. So if you want to get the day of a function of a date, so this will just give me what day is this, right? So that's very simple stuff. So edate. So edate, for example, one of uh, one of our participants have pointed out something that after 45 days something has happened, right? And if somebody want to know that what will be the date from today after 2 months or after 3 months. So this is the function that will let us know what will be the date from the existing date or the date specified after so many days. So this function will return a date after 3 months from this date. So Sunday, January 6, 2019 is the starting date. And from that date, after 3 months, what will be the date? So this says the after 3 months from that date, the date will be say 6th of April, right? Similarly, EO date. So EO date is uh, it will provide you the end of date. It will provide us the end of date end of month date. So for example, we have the Sunday, January 6, 29, and we want to determine what will be the end of date after a month. So after a month, the next month will be January, and the end date is 28th February. Similarly, you can do that with 2. So we have the 331. So 31st March will be the last year of month of this date, right? So these are very simple stuff. And we have the month function. So this will return the month of an existing date, right? Remember these functions because we will be using this function in the later webinars. I'm repeating it. Kindly make sure you understand and be able to apply these functions because these are the functions I will be using in my coming webinars. Okay, fine. Another very interesting uh, function which is known as the network days. So network days is very commonly used in to determine that how many working days exist between 2 days. For example, the start date is the 1st of January 2019 and the end date is 31st December 2019. I've set the format as the American format here. So these are the 2 dates. And I want to know that how many uh, working days do we have in these 2 dates? So the answer is we have so this is the start date and this is the end date. So network days is start date, comma end date. Holidays, okay, I will discuss that in a bit. So networked start date, comma end date. Between these 2 dates, how many networking days do exist? Okay. Then we do have a question that in this specified year, we do have certain gazetted holidays, public holidays. So what we need to do, we need to develop this sort of a plan. These are some of the data that I have captured from the net, and that says these are the gazetted holiday of 2019. So I want to incorporate these. So I want to exclude these from the networking days. So what I need to do is, so this is the start date, this is the end date, and this is the days of the holidays that we do have in the current year of 2019. So these will be deducted, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 14 working holidays in 2019. So these should be excluded. Now we have 250. Okay, now there is something that what I need to point it out, and that is the total public holiday is 14. This is actually, we have just counted it. But in these, we do have three public holidays which comes on Saturday. So Saturdays already accounted in 261. So this will not take effect on this because these are already accounted for. So difference between the network days is 11, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays, which is 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is 3. So we have total number of 14s. These 3 is already accounted for in, right? And there is the last one, network days international. So this is the international webinar. So let's have the international network days calculation. So concept is the same. The only difference is when you use network.international, right? So network, this is my start date, this is my finish date, and then when I click comma, this will provide me different options. Maybe Saturday, Sunday is normally the norm here. Majority of the countries, most of the countries, they follow this Saturday, Sunday. But in maybe in say, look at here, option number 7. So maybe in the Middle East and UAE, it is the Friday, Saturday, the two working holidays. So you can select the 7th one, and we have then uh, selected in that particular area. So if we click OK, so this gives me, so in whatever country you are in, you can select appropriate selection from there. So Monday, Tuesday, whatever the case may be. So opt for that and you go for. Maybe there are countries where only this Sundays only. Maybe let's see, the people like us, they normally come on Saturdays as well. So Saturday is our working day. So let's see what our working days are. So 313 are the net working days that we have in this current session. So this is actually the case, and we have the protection. Okay.
Let's explain what the word is.
Okay, fine. Actually, there sometimes what we want to know, what we want to do is we want to either uh, protect one cell or a range. For example, I have this range and I want to protect it. By protection, I means that I don't want anyone to write something on that particular range. I want to protect it, right? So I don't want anyone to allow, or even myself, maybe I accidentally type something on it. So I don't want myself or anybody to write anything on that particular range. So that what I meant, I can do that on a single cell. I can do that on uh, a range or maybe on multiple ranges. Now follow this step. I've already typed these steps. So what you need to do, you follow these steps. First, you will need to unprotect all of the cells on your sheet. To do this, select all the rows and columns in your sheet, right click and select the format cell. I'm following this with you, right? I'm following this with you. So this is the selection. First, you need to unprotect, and to do this, select all the rows and columns in your sheet. Right click. So I'm right clicking it, right? Then format cell. Add the format cell. Go to the protection. With the format cell window appears, select the protection tab, uncheck the lock. Now unchecked it. So we have unchecked it, right? Uncheck the lock checkbox, click OK. Now next, select the cell that you wish to protect. So these are the cell that I want to protect. Select the cell, then right click, then format cell, then protection. When the format cell window appears, select the protection tab, check the locked. Again, now click at OK. OK. Now for locking the cell to take effect, you must also protect the worksheet. To do this, go to the review tab, and then you have the protect sheet, right? And just if you need to type a password, you can or not. If you don't, just click OK, and let's see what will happen. So if I type something on it, it will give me an error message. I can do something here, I can type something, whatever, and I will, this will not allow me to enter. So that is how you can protect your cell or a given range. I think we have crossed the limit of time. So it's 1 o'clock. Okay, we are left with the data validate. So this is important topic, and I will take care in my one of the topic in uh, data management, which is report generation. That in order to generate a report, I should have a data and I should have a valid data. So what I can do that I can take care of this part there as well.
In the next session.
In the next session, yes. Obviously, in the next Saturday, yes, the next Saturday. So I will discuss that part in the next session. So I think it's 1 o'clock. If you have any question, you can ask, right? And if you don't, uh, so I guess there is no question so far. Maybe you are tired much.
Saying, okay, there are a few questions, people suggestions rather. People are saying, can we get access to this sheet with solutions? So we're just going to save it, upload it on our docs, on our Google Docs, and probably on Monday when they receive their certificates in the same email, we'll share the link to this worksheet as well.
Okay, fine.
Fine.
And to the recorded video, okay, of this session. So both of these will be available to you first thing on Monday.
Okay, fine. Okay, there maybe I should, okay, I will do that in my next webinar. So there is something that I have to say, but I need confirmation from His Excellency that should I do that or not. But because this is something official, and I will discuss it first, and then I will let you know if I've given permission. So thank you very much. I'm Karan Khan signing off from this webinar. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. This was a regional webinar, and we had audience from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Middle East, from Pakistan, and from quite a few other countries sitting in the webinar. So I think a very good session that way, that a lot of members got benefited from this. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please, Khurram, firsthand, if you can tell them about the next session as well, what we're going to cover then, and they all need to register for it.
Okay, fine. We will be having our next webinar next Saturday, the same timing, that is from 10 to 1 o'clock. And we will be discussing certain more important functions such as the VLOOKUP function, the lookup, the HLOOKUP, the index function, the match function.
Pivot table.
Very important functions. We will try to discuss, okay, maybe we will a bit, somebody suggesting that pivot table should be the first one. Okay, fine. We can discuss that. Okay, I will partly discuss the pivot table in the next session, and the remaining part in my fourth session, because I will be making use of pivot table in my developing dashboard. So you should be familiar with the basics of the pivot table. So I think that's the best way to do that. So I will discuss pivot table partly in my third session in the next week, and the remaining part of will be in the fourth session, right? So important functions, and there are certain very useful capabilities of Excel that I will be discussing those in that part. Very useful feature, and some of the features are excellent feature, and I think you're gonna love it. And if you apply those features, then that that will make your life very, very easy,
So
right?
you want to keep the suspense about it?
Yes, yes, I want. I want. There are certain tips and tricks, I will discuss those as well.
You know, among other topics, Fizan and team suggested macros. So macros not for now. Macros will be a whole different world, a whole different subject. And for that, look, we have a separate session altogether. Just like I recommended a separate session on charts as well. Because when you talk about data representation, graphic representation data, there are many ways in which you can come up with charts.
So at least Harun, yeah, partly, I think, have got the inclination to have a session on VBA. Macros. So again, that is again.
No, I need more lobbying.
You need. So fine, I think let's call it a day. Thank you very much for listening.
There was one last thing.
Okay.
Somebody suggested that 3 hours was rather too long and a lot to digest. Let me remind all the people that we used to have 8 hour long sessions, full
Yes,
day.
yes, we
And
did.
during Ramadan also, if you remember.
Yes, we
They
did.
cut that down to 3 hours because they feel that 3 hours at least it's manageable. I would suggest those who have attended the session today, please take some time out between today and tomorrow. Those who have a weekend tomorrow, those who don't today, and go over these concepts once again. And that's how you probably permanently store them in your brain. Yeah. So I think that's that, and that's all from ACCA's boardroom. Thank you very much, and enjoy your rest of the weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Bye bye.
Take care.
After these are a break of 10 minutes.